All right, so get ready, because today we are going to dive deep into something pretty fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the science behind attraction.
Okay.
Specifically, how our personalities actually influence our romantic choices.
Interesting.
So we've got some excerpts from this book all about personality types and relationships.
Okay.
And we're going to kind of unpack it all
Cool.
to try to help all of you listening understand what makes different personality types tick romantically.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that love is this purely emotional thing,
Right.
when actually there's a lot more science to it behind who we are drawn to and why.
Yeah. So let's unpack this science of love thing.
Okay.
The book lays out these 4 basic personality types.
Okay.
Explorers, builders, directors, and negotiators.
Okay.
What's the deal with these?
Well, each type has these core traits and motivations that really drive their behavior and relationships.
Okay.
So explorers are, as the name suggests, crave novelty and adventure.
Makes sense.
They're drawn to new experiences.
Right.
Like moths to a flame.
So then we've got the builders, who are all about stability, tradition, that solid foundation.
Right. They love security and consistency.
Okay.
Those are their love languages.
Okay.
Now, directors, they're the logical, analytical ones.
Okay.
Always thinking strategically,
Mm-hmm.
even when it comes to matters of the heart.
So even Cupid has to run his arrows by a spreadsheet for these folks.
Pretty much.
Okay.
And finally, we have the negotiators.
Okay.
Empathetic, imaginative souls, driven by deep connection and meaning.
Okay.
They thrive on those heart-to-heart connections.
Okay, so we've got our 4 players on the field: explorers, builders, directors, and negotiators. Now, the book highlights some interesting patterns when it comes to initial attraction between these types. Spill the tea. Who's drawn to who?
Well, buckle up, because this is where it gets really interesting. Explorers and builders, they tend to gravitate toward their own type. Birds of a feather flock together.
Makes sense. They kind of get each other.
Hmm.
But what about directors and negotiators? Are they left out in the cold?
Not at all. In fact, directors are primarily attracted to negotiators, and vice versa.
Hold on. You're telling me there's a scientific reason I always fall for those super organized, hyper-logical types?
It's possible. The book actually dives into how different brain chemicals are actually fueling these preferences.
Really?
It's not just coincidence or random chance.
Okay, brain chemistry, got it.
Yeah.
But let's not forget, attraction is complicated. The book talks about this love funnel idea. It's like a series of filters narrowing down our potential partners. So it's not just personality type at play, right?
Absolutely. This love funnel idea highlights that there's this whole cascade of factors that influence who we end up with.
Right.
Timing, for instance, plays a huge role.
Okay.
The book argues that big transitions and life changes can make us more susceptible to falling in love.
So you're saying a breakup, a big move, even something like a career change can prime us for a new romance.
Exactly. Think about it. During times of big change, we're more open to new experiences, new connections.
Right.
Our routines are disrupted, our comfort zones are challenged,
Right.
and we're primed for something new.
Okay, so transitions can open the love floodgates. The book also mentioned this fascinating anecdote about Patrick and Suzanne, who met on a dating site after being displaced by Hurricane Katrina. Talk about a major life change.
Right. It underscores how these moments of upheaval can
Wow.
also be incredible opportunities for love.
Wow, finding love amidst chaos. That's a powerful story. The book also talks about proximity, how we tend to fall for people we encounter regularly.
Think of it like this. Imagine you're at a party.
Okay.
Initially, you're standing in the room drawn to certain looks. You gravitate towards someone with an engaging voice, maybe exchanging a few words. You discover shared values, and suddenly you're both laughing, finding a comfortable R each way them in the conversation.
Okay.
That feeling of reciprocity, like they're into you too, seals the deal.
I like it.
Each stage of the love funnel narrows down the possibilities.
Wait, so you're telling me that even smell plays a role in attraction? That's wild. Tell me more about these odor prints. Is it like a pheromone thing?
It is fascinating, right?
Yeah.
Our unique odor prints actually communicate information about our health and can trigger instant attraction.
Really?
Or repulsion.
But isn't it a bit superficial to judge someone based on smell? What about personality?
It's more about subconscious biological compatibility. Studies have linked attractor body odor to, get this, physical symmetry.
Really?
Our noses are drawn to those good genes.
Okay, I never thought I'd be discussing the allure of body odor on a podcast about love, but here we are. So we've got timing, we've got proximity, we've even got smell working its magic. What about those initial unconscious assessments we make when we first meet someone. What's going on in those first few seconds?
Ah, yes. The book calls it the sensory symphony of attraction,
Oh, yeah.
explaining how we're taking in so much more than we realize. It starts with the obvious, looks. Our brains are programmed to seek out certain physical traits. Symmetry, for instance, is a sign of good genes and health.
So if I'm drawn to someone with symmetrical features, I'm basically saying, hey, you look like you've got some good DNA.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And the book suggests different personality types might have subtle preferences in facial features. Explorers might favor expressive faces, while negotiators might be drawn to those with signs of testosterone.
Interesting.
And then there's shape. Different body types send different signals, and men and women tend to have specific preferences. Builders might be drawn to more traditional standards of beauty, while negotiator women might seek taller partners.
Okay, so looks and shape are important. What about voice? Does that play a role in attraction too?
Absolutely. Voice tone, accent, inflection, they can all be incredibly powerful in triggering attraction. The book even claims an attractive voice can make someone seem more physically appealing.
It's true. I've definitely experienced that. A smooth voice can definitely add to someone's allure.
The book mentions a study linking attractive voices to physical symmetry. Again, those good genes.
Wow.
Then, of course, there are the words themselves. The book mentions a fascinating word type study where each personality type is drawn to specific words.
Oh, now that's intriguing. Like, what kind of words would make an explorer's heart flutter or a director's brain light up? I need to know more.
Well, we'll have to keep digging into the source material to uncover those secrets.
Okay.
The book also talks about RHYBMM, especially the importance of coordinated movement.
So that awkward first dance isn't just about showing off our moves.
Uh-huh.
It's a display of genetic fitness.
Exactly. They mention a study using laser reflectors to track the movements of Jamaican dancers.
Wait, they put lasers on dancers. Okay, I'm definitely intrigued now. What did they find?
The most coordinated dancers were also the most physically symmetrical.
Yeah.
Again, those good genes.
Okay, so if I can bust a move on the dance floor, I'm basically signaling that I'm good mating material.
Yeah.
Got it. So first impressions are about way more than a pretty face. We're taking in all these subtle cues about someone's personality, health, and even genetic makeup.
Right.
But once we've cleared those initial hurdles, what happens next? Does the love funnel widen, or are things about to get even more intense?
That's when we move from the sensory symphony to the compatibility concerto.
Okay.
This is where shared values come into play.
Because even if there's that initial spark, if you don't see eye to eye on the big things, it's probably not going anywhere, right?
Exactly. And different personality types approach these early compatibility checks in their own unique ways.
So how do explorers, builders, directors, and negotiators navigate those first few conversations?
Explorers, true to form, are all about experiences. They want to know what you've done, where you've been, what adventures you've had.
Right.
They're looking for a partner in crime for their next escapade.
Makes sense. What about builders? What are they trying to figure out in those early interactions?
Builders are more focused on social connections. They'll want to know who, what you do for a living, that kind of thing. They're assessing your place in the social fabric.
So they're looking for someone who fits into their world.
Exactly. Now, directors, always the intellectuals, will likely steer the conversation toward deep, thought-provoking topics.
Okay.
They're testing your mental mettle.
So a first date with a director is like an impromptu oral exam.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. I'll brush up on my philosophy.
And then we have the negotiators.
Okay.
They'll be exploring feelings, philosophical issues, those big questions that really get to the heart of who you are. They're seeking that profound connection from the get-go.
Okay, so everyone's got their own style.
Right.
Now, the book also brings up social exchange theory.
Yeah.
It sounds pretty transactional.
It's not as cold as it sounds.
Okay.
It essentially means we subconsciously seek partners who can fulfill our needs in exchange for what we offer.
Okay.
We're assessing whether the relationship will be mutually beneficial.
Like a give and take. Interesting. But what happens when a partner meets some needs but not others?
That's when things get complicated. The book gives an example of a woman who prioritized intellectual equality over financial security.
Right.
It highlights how our values and priorities factor into our partner choices.
That makes sense. We all have our non-negotiables.
Right.
And then there's the question of role compatibility,
Yeah.
those long-term visions for the future.
Right. Can you see yourself building a life together? Do your goals align?
Yeah.
If not, that can be a major roadblock.
Okay. So we've got shared values, needs, roles. all these factors at play.
Right.
But then the book drops this bombshell. Love maps.
Yeah.
Sound kind of mysterious.
Love maps are basically our unconscious lists of traits we seek in a partner.
Okay.
And get this, they're shaped by our childhood experiences.
Oh, wow.
Our past is playing a role in our present love life, whether we realize it or not.
So even though we think we're making like rational choices, our love map might be steering us towards certain types of people,
Yeah.
even if they're not good for us.
Exactly. The book shares an anecdote about Mary, who married an unpredictable artist because she was subconsciously drawn to his dramatic behavior. It mirrored her experiences with her alcoholic father.
Wow, that's a powerful example of how early relationships can create patterns that repeat in our adult lives.
It also highlights this phenomenon of positive illusions.
Okay.
Sometimes believing our partner fits our love map is more important than the actual fit. We overlook red flags because we're convinced this person is the one.
So we're wearing rose-colored glasses, blinded by our own love map. Okay, I'm definitely going to need to unpack my own love map after this.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept.
Okay, let's paint a picture for our listeners. We've successfully navigated the love funnel. You've checked off those compatibility boxes. Even your love map seems to be in alignment. And then, bam, your date shows genuine interest in you.
Oh,
What happens next?
that's when the magic truly happens.
Okay.
The book describes this beautiful moment when the spark ignites,
Okay.
all thanks to the power of reciprocity.
Reciprocity. I am intrigued. Tell me more.
Simply put, knowing someone likes us makes us more attracted to them.
No.
It's that feeling of being desired, of being chosen.
So it's not enough to be the one doing the choosing. We need to feel chosen as well.
Exactly. It creates this feedback loop of attraction.
Yeah.
The more someone shows interest, the more interested we become.
That explains a lot. So we've laid the groundwork, the 4 personality types, the factors that influence attraction, the elements of compatibility.
Right.
But now, the main event. What happens when these personality types pair up in romantic relationship?
That's where things get really juicy.
Okay.
The book delves into each possible pairing, exploring the unique dynamics of each match.
Okay, let's do this. We've got 10 potential pairings to explore.
Right.
Time to crack open the love lab and see what happens when these personalities collide.
Let's do it.
First up, we have a pairing of 2 explorers.
Okay.
Double the adventure, double the fun.
Yeah.
Or a recipe for disaster.
That's the question, isn't it? The book describes this pairing as a whirlwind of shared experiences.
Okay.
Think spontaneous trips, exploring new hobbies, pushing boundaries, a constant chase for that next adrenaline rush.
Sounds exhausting, but also kind of exhilarating. What could go wrong with 2 free spirits on a shared adventure?
Well, one challenge is maintaining intimacy amidst all that excitement.
Right.
Explorers are so focused on outward experience
Yeah.
that they can sometimes neglect the emotional depth of their relationship.
It's like they're so busy checking things off their bucket list that they forget to nurture the bond between them.
Precisely. And then there's the issue of commitment.
Okay.
Explorers can be fickle, always searching for the next big thrill.
Right.
Maintaining a long-term relationship can be a challenge.
Variety is the spice of life. But too much variety can lead to instability, so it's a delicate balance.
Exactly. This pairing can be incredibly fulfilling if both partners are willing to put in the effort to balance their thirst for adventure with a commitment to each other.
So it's not impossible, but it takes conscious effort.
Right.
Okay, next up we have the explorer-builder pairing.
Okay.
This one feels a little more unlikely.
Yeah.
How do those 2 seemingly opposite personalities even find each other, let alone make it work?
You're right. This isn't a pairing typically based on initial intense attraction. It's more of a slow burn.
Like they get to know each other gradually and attraction builds over time.
Exactly. The book suggests this pairing might form because of circumstantial factors, like proximity or shared social circles.
Okay.
They might be friends first, or colleagues who spend a lot of time together.
So opposites can attract, but maybe not at first sight.
Right.
What's the key to making this pairing work?
Appreciation. Each partner needs to appreciate the strengths the other brings to the table.
Okay.
The explorer injects excitement and adventure into the builder's more structured life.
Right.
The builder, in turn, offers stability and grounding for the explorer's free-spirited nature.
So they balance each other out. I can see the appeal, but surely there must be some challenges, right?
So of course, the explorer's need for novelty can clash with the builder's love of routine and tradition, and the builder's practicality might dampen the explorer's spontaneity.
Yeah.
It's that classic push and pull dynamic.
Communication seems crucial for this pairing.
Yes.
Each partner needs to understand and respect the other's core needs.
Absolutely. It's about finding a rhythm that works for both, respecting those fundamental differences.
Okay, so we've got the thrill-seeking explorer-explorer match and the more grounded explorer-builder pairing.
Mm-hmm.
What about explorer-director?
Okay.
Can a free spirit find common ground with a logic-driven mind?
This one's interesting because, according to the book, these two types often find each other mildly unattractive at first.
Really? Why is that?
Well, their approaches to life are vastly different.
Okay.
Explorers are spontaneous and go with the flow,
Right.
while directors are all about logic and meticulous planning.
Okay.
It's a clash of styles from the get-go.
So their personalities might clash initially,
Yeah.
but what if they give it a chance? Could there be a hidden spark?
There could. If they get past those initial differences, they can actually have a very stimulating relationship.
Really? How so?
Both types are intellectually curious.
Okay.
They enjoy exploring ideas and engaging in thought-provoking conversations. They
Mhm.
can learn a lot from each other.
So they might bond over their shared love of knowledge and mental stimulation.
Exactly.
That's an interesting twist.
Yeah.
What else makes this pairing work?
Another plus is that both explorers and directors tend to be highly independent.
So they would give each other space and respect each other's need for autonomy.
Right.
That's crucial for any relationship, but especially for these two. But surely, even with shared intellectual interests, there must be some bumps along the way.
Of course, the explorer's freewheeling nature might frustrate the director's need for order and control.
Right.
And the director's bluntness might come across as insensitive to the more emotionally attuned explorer.
So navigating those differences in communication style would be important.
It would.
They'd need to find a way to speak each other's language, both literally and emotionally.
Yes, finding that balance is key.
It sounds like a dynamic duo with a lot to offer each other.
They do.
Now, how about explorer-negotiator?
Okay.
How do those two personalities mesh? Can a whirlwind romance stand the test of time?
This pairing highlights the tension between the explorer's need for novelty and the negotiator's deep desire for emotional connection.
Okay.
It's a classic case of, can you catch a butterfly with a net?
So they're drawn to each other's strengths,
Mm-hmm.
but also potentially challenged by their differences. That sounds tricky.
It can be. The book suggests that the initial attraction might be strong, especially for the negotiator, who is often drawn to the explorer's energy and charisma.
Okay.
But maintaining that spark long-term could be tricky.
Right. The negotiator's need for deep, meaningful conversations might not be fully met by the explorer, who is more focused on outward experience.
Right, and the explorer might feel stifled by the negotiator's desire for constant emotional connection. They might feel like their wings are being clipped.
So finding a balance between freedom and connection would be crucial for this pairing.
It would.
They need to give each other space to breathe while still nurturing that emotional bond.
Absolutely. Communication is key, as always.
Right.
But it's not just about talking, it's about understanding and respecting those fundamental differences in how they approach life and love.
Okay, we've covered all the possible pairings with the adventurous explorer.
We have.
Now let's move on to the builder.
All right.
What happens when two builders get together?
Okay.
Is it all smooth sailing, or are there hidden depths to this seemingly predictable pairing?
The builder-builder match. This is often considered the most stable and harmonious pairing.
Makes sense. Two people who value tradition, security, a strong foundation that sounds like a solid base for a lasting relationship.
It can be. They share values, similar lifestyles, and an inherent understanding of each other's needs. They're both in it for the long haul, committed to building a life together. In fact, the book mentions that this pairing is more likely to lead to marriage and less likely to end in divorce.
Sounds pretty idyllic. But even this seemingly perfect pairing must have its challenges, right?
Mm-hmm.
No relationship is completely without its bumps.
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
In this case, one potential issue is a lack of spontaneity.
Okay.
Too much routine, even if it's comfortable, can lead to boredom.
I can see how that could become an issue over time.
Yeah.
A little bit of spice keeps things interesting.
Exactly. And because builders are so focused on doing things the right way,
Right.
they can sometimes get stuck in their ways and be resistant to change.
Okay.
Flexibility is an important skill to cultivate in any relationship,
Right.
but especially in this pairing.
So it's not just about building a life together.
Uh-huh.
It's about being willing to adapt and grow together.
Exactly.
What else do builders need to watch out for?
Another potential challenge is that both partners might be reluctant to express their emotions openly. They might prioritize keeping the peace over addressing difficult issues.
Bottling things up can be a recipe for resentment down the road.
It can.
So even though they're naturally compatible, builders still need to work on open and honest communication.
Exactly. Finding healthy ways to communicate their feelings and needs is crucial,
Right.
even or perhaps especially in a relationship that seems so naturally aligned.
Okay, builder. Builder is the solid, steady as a rock pairing.
It is.
But what happens when we shake things up a bit? What about builder-director?
Okay.
Can those two seemingly different personalities find common ground?
This pairing might not have that initial spark of intense attraction.
Okay.
In fact, the book notes they often find each other somewhat unattractive at first.
Opposites don't always attract, I guess.
Yeah.
But what if they look beyond those first impressions? What might draw them together?
If they end up together, it's often because they appreciate the strength that the other brings to the relationship.
Okay.
The builder admires the director's ambition and decisiveness, while the director appreciates the builder's social skills and ability to create a stable, welcoming home environment.
So they complement each other in many ways.
Yes,
It's like they each have something the other one needs.
exactly.
But surely those differences in personality can't just magically disappear.
Of course not. There will be friction points.
Like what?
The builder's focus on social harmony might clash with the director's more blunt and direct communication style.
Right, and the director's single-minded pursuit of goals might leave the builder feeling neglected.
Right. So finding a balance between their different approaches to life is key.
Yeah.
They need to find a middle ground where ambition meets harmony.
Again, communication and compromise are key. Now, what about build a negotiator?
Right.
That seems like another pairing with the potential for both harmony and conflict.
It is.
Can a heart-centered negotiator find lasting happiness with a grounded builder?
On the surface, they might seem like a good match.
Okay.
Both value relationships and family,
Mhm.
and they're generally kind and caring individuals.
So there's a foundation of shared values, which is always a good start.
Right.
But what lies beneath the surface?
The book points out that their underlying temperaments are quite different.
Okay.
The builder is more grounded in concrete reality and practical matters,
Right.
while the negotiator is driven by emotions, intuition, and a deep desire for connection.
So their approaches to life might clash.
They might.
One's all about practicality, the other's all about feelings.
Exactly. The negotiator's tendency to overthink and analyze everything might frustrate the builder, who prefers a more straightforward approach.
Yeah.
And the builder's focus on tradition and rules might feel stifling to the negotiator, who values flexibility and spontaneity.
It's a classic case of head versus heart.
It is.
Can they bridge that divide?
The book emphasizes that this pairing can work, but it requires a willingness to understand and appreciate those differences.
Okay, we've explored all the builder pairings,
We have.
uncovering both the strengths and potential pitfalls.
Right.
Now let's move on to the director. What happens when two directors get together?
Okay.
Is it all logic and no emotion? Or is there more to this pairing than meets the eye?
Contrary to what you might think, the director-director pairing can be surprisingly passionate.
Wait, really? I wouldn't have guessed that. Why is that?
They both have this intense, focused energy,
Yeah.
and that intensity can translate into a very powerful connection. They bring that same laser focus they apply to their work and hobbies into their relationship.
So it's like they're both firing on all cylinders all the time.
Pretty much.
I can see how that could create some sparks. But what's the fuel for that fire?
They admire each other's competence, intelligence, and ambition.
Okay.
They understand and respect that drive to succeed in each other.
Mhm.
They're not intimidated by each other's success. They're inspired by it.
That's pretty awesome, actually.
It is.
But I imagine there could also be some fireworks when those strong personalities clash.
Oh, yeah.
Two directors in a power struggle that could get intense.
Absolutely. Both can be very stubborn and opinionated.
Right. And neither is afraid to engage in a heated debate.
Mm-hmm.
Those intellectual sparring matches could definitely get pretty fiery.
So how do they keep those debates from turning into all-out war?
As long as they can maintain respect and focus on productive dialogue,
Okay.
those debates can actually strengthen their bond.
So it's all about channeling that competitive energy in a healthy way.
Exactly.
They can challenge each other without tearing each other down.
Right. And because directors are not generally very emotionally expressive, they value and appreciate those moments of genuine connection even more.
Right.
It's like they understand each other on a deeper level than most people might realize.
It's like a secret language of shared ambition and intellectual connection.
Yeah.
I like it.
And don't forget, they both value independence and autonomy.
Right.
They give each other space to pursue their passions without feeling suffocated. So it's a relationship built on mutual respect, shared goals, and a whole lot of intellectual firepower. I can see why this pairing, despite its potential for conflict, can be so rewarding.
It can be.
Okay, we've covered the intense and dynamic world of the director-director match.
We have.
Now for the grand finale. We have the director-negotiator pairing.
Okay.
The classic example of opposites attract.
It is. And the book claims it's one of the most common pairings.
Why do you think that is? What's the magnetic pull between these two seemingly different personality?
It's a fascinating combination of factors.
Okay.
On a biological level, their brain chemistry is perfectly aligned.
Okay.
Directors are driven by testosterone, while negotiators are fueled by estrogen and oxytocin.
Hold on. Break that down for me.
Okay.
What do those hormones have to do with attraction?
Testosterone, in simple terms, is linked to assertiveness and drive.
Okay.
Estrogen and oxytocin are associated with empathy, bonding, and nurturing.
Okay.
These hormones actually complement each other beautifully.
So there's a natural underlying attraction based on their very biology. It's amazing.
It is.
What about the psychology of this pairing? How do their personalities fit together?
They offer each other strengths that they lack. The director brings decisiveness and logic to the relationship, while the negotiator provides emotional intelligence and empathy.
So they balance each other out perfectly. The director provides the head, and the negotiator provides the heart.
In theory, yes. But as with any pairing, it's not always smooth sailing.
Okay, let's get real. What are some of the challenges they might face?
The director's blunt communication style can sometimes hurt the negotiator's feelings.
Right.
And the negotiators need to talk about everything can exhaust the director, who prefers to keep things more surface level.
So navigating those differences in communication and emotional expression would be crucial.
It would.
The director needs to learn to soften their edges, and the negotiator needs to accept that not everything needs to be dissected and discussed.
Exactly. And there's the potential for conflict around their needs for independence and intimacy. The director's ambition and focus on achievement might leave the negotiator feeling neglected,
Right.
while the negotiator's need for constant connection might feel suffocating to the director.
So finding a balance between those needs is essential.
It is.
It's about creating a space where they can both be themselves.
Yes.
Both independently and together.
Absolutely. But the book emphasizes that this pairing has the potential to be incredibly fulfilling if both partners are willing to put in the effort to understand and appreciate each other's unique perspectives.
It's like they each hold a piece of the puzzle. The other one needs to complete the picture.
Beautifully put. And that brings us to the final pairing. Negotiator.
Okay.
Two hearts on a quest for connection. Can it work, or is it too much of a good thing?
Two souls seeking that deep, meaningful connection sounds like a recipe for romantic bliss.
It certainly can be. The book describes this pairing as incredibly intense and emotionally charged. They understand each other's feelings implicitly. They can talk for hours about anything and everything.
Wow.
And they both crave that profound sense of intimacy.
It sounds almost like they're reading each other's minds.
Yeah.
But I imagine there can also be too much of a good thing.
Very true. The book points out that this pairing can sometimes become too insular, too focused on their own little world.
So they might neglect their relationships with friends and family, lose themselves in their shared bubble.
Exactly. And because they're both so sensitive and empathetic,
Right.
they might struggle to deal with conflict healthily.
Yeah.
Avoiding those tough conversations can lead to resentment down the road.
So even though they're swimming in a sea of shared feelings, they still need to learn how to navigate choppy waters.
Precisely. Finding a balance between their need for connection and the importance of maintaining their individual identities would be key.
So it's not just about merging into one.
Right.
It's about being two whole individuals who choose to come together.
Exactly. It's about honoring both the we and the me in the relationship.
So there you have it. We've explored 10 different pairings,
We have.
each with its own unique set of strengths, challenges, and potential pitfalls.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how these 4 basic personality types can create such a diverse range of relationship dynamics. We've got everything from thrill-seeking explorer-explorer pairs to the rock-solid builder duos to the fiery clashes and passionate connections of the director-negotiator matches.
It is remarkable. And remember, while these personality types provide valuable insights,
Right.
they're not meant to be rigid categories.
Right.
We're all complex individuals,
Right.
and our relationships are shaped by so much more than just our personality type.
Exactly. It's not like we're walking around with labels stamped on our foreheads, dictating who we can and cannot love.
Right. But having this framework can be incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
It can help us understand ourselves and our partners better, leading to more fulfilling and harmonious relationships.
It's like having a secret decoder ring for deciphering the complexities of love. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of personality types and romantic compatibility, what are the key takeaways our listeners should remember?
Well, first, we explored those four basic personality types: explorers, builders, directors, and negotiators. We saw how they approach life, love, and relationships in their own unique ways.
Then we uncovered those fascinating ways that our brains and biology influence who we're attracted to. From symmetry and scent to voice and movement, we're constantly sending and receiving signals, often without even realizing it.
And we delved into the unique dynamics of each pairing.
Yeah.
From the passionate highs to the potential pitfalls, understanding those dynamics can help us navigate those challenges more effectively.
It's been an amazing journey exploring the science of attraction and the fascinating interplay of personality and love. But even though we've reached the end of our deep dive today, there's still so much more to explore.
Now that you have this knowledge, I encourage you to pay attention to your own dating patterns. What types are you drawn to? What needs are you seeking to fulfill in your relationships? And how can you use this knowledge to create happier and more fulfilling relationships?
That's such great advice. It's one thing to understand these personality types in theory, but the real magic happens when we apply this knowledge to our own lives. I encourage all of you listening to really think about your own love map, those unconscious patterns that might be shaping your choices.
Remember, personality types are a fascinating lens for viewing relationships.
Yeah.
But love ultimately remains a complex and unpredictable journey. We can't predict who will fall for or how those relationships will unfold. But with a little self-awareness and a willingness to understand ourselves and our partners, we can all create relationships that are both passionate and fulfilling.
So keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those love maps handy. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of personality types and romantic compatibility. We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration.